meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Complaint Committee to order. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Hi, yes, this is the Complaint Committee, March 28th, 2000. Sorry, I'm just kind of doing a mic check on the.
Okay.
Yes, the microphone is working. The March 28th, 2017 meeting of the Complaint Committee. The time is 5:35 p.m. On the call of the roll, Barnetsky. Barnetsky is absent. Member Hinsey?
Present.
Hinsey present. Chair Tesfa?
Present.
Chair Tesfa present. I have been informed that the SOTF chair intends to appear at today's meeting, and we do anticipate his attendance shortly. At this time, in regards to agenda changes, I'd like to inform the committee that the complainant for item number 6, David Dripple, against the San Francisco Board of Education, has withdrawn his complaint, and that matter is no longer under the jurisdiction of this committee, as it has been withdrawn. There are no other agenda changes that I know of at this time. Next on the agenda is item number 2, approval of the February 28, 2017 Complaint Committee minutes.
Do we have a motion on this item?
I'll motion to approve the minutes of our February 28th meeting.
Thank you. And I'll second that.
Is there any public comment regarding the minutes of February 28th? There being no public commenters, would you like to approve that without objection?
Yes, thank you.
Next on the agenda, item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Is there any general public comment today? There does not appear to be any public comment at this time. Next on the agenda, item number 4, file number 16113, complaint filed by Larry Chan against Lieutenant Catherine Whalen and the San Francisco Police Department for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.21, by failing to respond to a public works request in a timely and/or complete manner. This committee has previously made determination on jurisdiction. I believe this matter has been previously heard by this committee on 2 previous occasions, and I believe a representative from the police department is here at this time.
I have very limited questions, just follow up from last time. We were able to hear many details from Mr. Chan, and so my questions are limited to that of the police department. Member Hinsey?
No, yeah.
Okay. So do you think it's appropriate, Victor,
Yes.
if we just go ahead and hear from the police department?
Yes, there is no set procedure for complaint committee hearings.
Okay. Hi.
Lieutenant Walland, Police Legal.
Could you pull the...
Lieutenant Catherine Walland, Police Legal.
And Ashley Worsham of the Internal Affairs Division.
Okay. Do you have a statement, or can we jump into questions? Jump into questions. Great.
Yeah, we've answered the.
Okay. Last time that we were here, we were able to hear many details from Mr. Chan, and we were trying to get further details from your organization on if the investigation is still open, at what point, and if so, at what point in the investigation are you? Our understanding was that the investigation had closed, but because he is appealing, then now it's still open, but we need to get those details, and also as well as hearing about what section of the ordinance you're invoking in order to keep some of those items redacted.
Okay. And if I might, Ashley Worsham appearing on behalf of the San Francisco Police Department, specifically the Internal Affairs Division Department. It's been our practice over the years to refer to this investigation as open until it officially closes, with a determination by the Chief of Police that Officer Larry Chan would receive some sort of discipline. And upon service of that notice on Officer Larry Chan, with the chief's intent to impose the final discipline, then that matter could be closed. However, if Officer Chan were to request to appeal the matter to the San Francisco Police Commission, he has that right with which to do that, from the level of reprimands on up to the suspension. So what happens is the initial IAD investigation takes place. That matter is then referred to the chief of police for a decision as to whether or not to sustain that investigation and impose or notice Officer Chan with a level of discipline from a reprimand on up to a suspension. Officer Chan then has the right to have a chief's hearing, which is very similar to our Skelly hearings that we do for civilians. That process has not occurred. So it's the department's position that the matter remains open. Officer Chan has requested a chief's hearing, is my understanding, and the final discipline has not been imposed.
So in the process that you just stated, he's in an appeal, correct? But an appeal of which portion of the process?
So I personally don't label it an appeal. He's been
Okay.
noticed with the chief's intent to impose a disciplinary reprimand. He has requested a chief's hearing. In essence, I think you could call it challenging the chief's decision, or he'd like to be able to present some mitigating evidence as to why the chief should not impose a reprimand. If that reprimand is imposed as a final disciplinary decision, he then has a right to go through the appeal process, because that would be considered a negative comment in his personnel record.
And where is the policy stated showing when an investigation is open or closed? Where is that publicly located?
Well, I think that regardless of the investigation being open or closed, the contents of the investigation would not be available for public records request releases. So I don't know if that's...
Yeah, that doesn't really answer my question, because once the investigation is closed,
So
you should be able to request documents under the Sunshine Ordinance. So that's why right now we're kind of hinging on, is this investigation open or closed?
So-
the first portion of the investigation appears to have been concluded, but it sounds like there are many gates that you would go through before reaching a final decision and the investigation being closed.
So, for example, Officer Chan could come into his chief's hearing with further information that may need to be reviewed either by the IAD attorney who's handling the chief's hearing, who might refer that matter to an investigator in IAD to conduct further investigation.
Okay.
It just varies, but as it stands now, his case has not, his entire case has not been closed, because he has requested that chief's hearing, and no final discipline has been imposed.
Okay, so under which portion of the Sunshine Ordinance are you invoking an exception to the release of these documents?
I think that you could look at Evidence Code 1040, the official information privilege. I think, I'm sorry.
We would need to be making reference to the Sunshine Ordinance.
Okay. I think you could look at Section 6254F.
I'm not sure if you've come before us. I know that Officer Walland has appeared here before, but at the complaint committee, we will not be rendering a finding of a violation or not. The purpose of this hearing, or this committee hearing, is just to make sure that we have all of the facts, so that when we have the full task force here, they'll have all of the ducks in a row in order to be able to fully assess the case, so you don't have to come back. So that's the purpose of this. So just trying to get all of those facts. So is there any place where we can find a copy of the process that the Internal Affairs Division uses to determine if an investigation is open or closed? A policy that's publicly available, so that...
I'm not sure that there's a written policy that I could refer you to.
Okay.
But I can tell you that I've been doing this for 11 years, and his case, I'm of the opinion that his case remains open until a final decision by the chief to impose discipline has been imposed.
But there's no written policy on that?
No.
So there's no way for those in the process to have an expectation as to when an investigation is open or closed?
I mean, it really depends on, once the officer's noticed, a hearing's usually scheduled. Depends on.
And
if
that's the
request-
chief's hearing that you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the chief's hearing. Oftentimes, requests for continuances are made. Once that chief's hearing's been conducted, a summary is prepared
Okay.
for the chief's review that makes a final determination. There's a deputy chief that presides over that hearing.
Okay.
And that person takes evidence in the hearing. The officer's allowed to speak. The officer's representative is allowed to speak. The department presents its case. And then a summary is given to the chief. And then the chief makes a final determination should the level of discipline that I recommended initially
Okay.
remain the same, or it can be adjusted downward.
Okay.
It's never adjusted upward.
So at that point, the investigation would be closed and the documents would be available via the Sunshine Ordinance.
We would, no. Go ahead.
Internal affairs investigations are confidential personnel records pursuant to the Penal Code 832.5, 832.7, and 832.8, and are exempted from disclosure, Section 6254K, which allows exemption of records, the disclosure of which is exempted or prohibited pursuant to federal or state law.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question to that then. So, at any point in this event, at any point, whether this investigation is open or closed, does the police department believe that at any point will these documents be available under the Sunshine Ordinance?
No.
Okay. I think that we have all of the information that we need here, and I would like to, and I'd like to hear from Member Hinsey make a recommendation that this go before the full task force.
Yeah.
Ready? Okay.
I agree on that. I'm not.
I'm not saying I'm in agreement
I'm not
necessarily
sure
of
if
how
I-
they're invoking
I'm not
6254.
sure if I'm ready to make a recommendation
Okay.
as far as them having us having a path to follow at the full board.
That's fine.
But I'm open to your conversation.
You may be seated. Thank you.
Okay, can I just clarify?
Sure.
So the request was for an entire day of a internal affairs investigator. So there may be items contained within there unrelated to the requesting party. The requesting party is provided with discovery as part of their appeals process for anyone that appeals their finding. So they have received the documents that they are entitled to already. So but we can't just open up an internal affairs investigator's email for the day. There's likely going to be something in there that falls under those provisions of,
Okay. Okay. Can we give the complainant 2 minutes to speak? He's here.
Hi, good evening, Ms. Testway. After listening to them, I just wanted to reiterate what Commissioner Baraneski had mentioned last meeting. There was a timeline. I do have a timeline because I was served with a notice to respond to a chief's hearing on May 16th. So if there's any timeline that you can either push this forward, because whatever I believe happens regarding this task force hearing will either exonerate me or show a lot of nepotism or cover-up by Deputy Chief of the Police Department. I also wanted to add, and I think you have a record of it, all the IAD documents that Victor had been emailed, also the appellate court ruling from first week of March where personal emails used for work is part of public record, and that's what Sergeant Riley had claimed she did. So those 5 pages, like I said before, the department's claiming witness protection or another variants of the government code and or the evidence code, but there is no crime that has been committed. So the claim that there was a witness protection is not being transparent by, like I said before, the ones that are held to a higher standard to investigate other police officers. It's quite a stretch, and I believe those 5 pages redacted. You could redact the name and the IP address, and the body of that email will explain a lot to me in regards to the discovery that they're withholding. I mean, that's part of the investigation, but what are they trying to hide from me, or who are they trying to protect that messed up, that went on a witch hunt for me? How do I know my email was not hacked? There's a lot of sinister things that I need to find out more on that they are blacking out completely. Everything else was not confidential on those 44 pages from the emails I requested that day. So just throwing it in your head to cast any doubt that whatever they're claiming is, and it's still open.
And you
as
said
far
your
as
chief's
this-
hearing is May 15th?
May 16th.
May 16th.
And it's with the deputy chief, and I could have accepted the reprimand when I received it, but I did not, because every person has a right to appeal a ruling, and police commission hearings are going to go I will accept whatever happens at that chief's hearing, but what Ms. Worsham is saying is somewhat kind of true, but it isn't true. It's like the department will say it is an open case because until you take your punishment, it's an open case.
Okay.
That's how it works.
That's helpful.
Thank you.
Mr. Chan. So at this time, after the last complaint committee hearing, the outstanding question was whether this investigation is open or not. After hearing from the respondent, it sounds like it is their position that it is open. We have that information, and that can go before the full task force. I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation on a violation or not, but I think that we have all of the facts in order, and also an understanding of which exemption this organization is invoking to prevent this information from going out, and that would be for the task force to determine is valid or not. So,
I agree.
do you have a motion?
Sure. I will make a motion to move this up with the to the full task force with the finding of jurisdiction only and no recommendation.
Can we hear a public comment on that motion? Seeing none, I guess we can call the roll for the two of us.
On the motion to refer the matter to the full task force with the recommendation to find jurisdiction, but no recommendation regarding the violation. On that motion, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Chair Tesfa.
Aye.
Tesfa, aye. The motion passes. I'd just like to ask both parties, there is a possibility to schedule this either this coming Wednesday or on or April the 5th, or sorry, I'm just checking my calendar, or May the 3rd. I just wanted to be sure that both parties can agree to which date would be workable for both. Either May 3rd, which is the first Wednesday of the month in May, or this coming Wednesday on April the 5th.
April 5th, I can do.
I can do April 5th, it's fine.
Okay. I will confirm this once I check with the chair of the full task force to see if we can add this to next week's meeting.
Thank you.
I just wanted to be sure, you're not associated with the police commission hearing? Do you have to attend the police commission hearing next week on Wednesday?
I do.
Yes, you do. Because I do know that they start at approximately 5:30, and we do have a complaint against the police commission that is going to be first on the agenda. So will that be a problem to you, being stuck going to Sunshine Task Force meeting and having to jump over to the police commission meeting?
Well, I think Sergeant Wayland said she can be here on April.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Great,
No
thank
problem
you.
then. I just wanted to be sure there was no conflict because the police commission meets on the exact same day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Thank you for double checking.
Thank you, yeah.
I will check with Chair Wolf to see if we can put it on the April 5th date, and I will confirm by email to both parties. Next on the agenda, item number 5. File number 17011, complaint filed by Carol Lau against the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector for alleged violating Administrative Code, Section 6.21 by failing to respond to a request for public records in a complete manner. I believe the complainant is present. Is there?
I'm here for the city.
Thank you. Would you like to allow them?
Yes, I would
brief
like to hear,
statements?
yeah, brief statement. If you have 3 minutes, Ms. Lau.
Hi, I wanted to complain because I requested the tax office to give me records about any records, call logs, emails, anything about tax property payers who had to pay late fees, regardless of whose fault it was, either the payer themselves or the tax office, because there have been two situations that have happened to my mother. In first case, where she went into the office herself and paid by check, and the employee misplaced it, but then they called her back and told her, since the due date had passed, that she had to pay a late fee. And she had a receipt that said she had paid it. She had to go back into the office again, and they were like, "No, please pay the late fee," despite the fact that she had evidence that she had paid. Later on, she said she wasn't going to pay this because she wanted the people to find her check. A week later, they called her and was like, "Okay, we found the check." They had misplaced it, but they had still requested her to pay the late fee. Then after this situation, she wanted to pay online, but since she can't read English, and the website's only in English, I had to help her. And I paid it online. I did e-checking because credit cards has a really high fee. I never got a notice that said, I got a receipt that said I paid for it, so I was like, okay, it's done. But then the due date comes past, and then we get another bill with the attached late fee. And we were like, what happened? We didn't get any notification that the payment didn't go through, there was something wrong with it or anything. So when I called them, they just basically assumed that I made a mistake. And that because of this statement that they put on their receipt, that regardless of what happens, we are at fault, and that we have to follow up on the payment. And I was like, well, then what's the point of this receipt then? Because I already paid it. I got a receipt. If you held the check for longer than 10 days and it passed the due date, that's still my fault. So I asked them for records to prove that, like, how many people are being affected by this. And they said that there was no such records, despite the fact that I myself had called several times, had emailed several times. Those were records there. So they said there was no such records, and I'm like, and that they couldn't create such records to give them to me. So yeah, that's why I'm complaining.
Thank you. Can we have the representative from the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector make a 3-minute statement?
Thank you.
Please say your name as well.
I am Deborah Liu. I'm the Assistant Tax Collector attorney. And the Public Record Act, request number 1, is basically asking for documents relating and pertaining to every instance where the citizen has been forced to pay late fees because the tax collector's office improperly handled hard-earned taxpayer money. The second public record request was documents relating to late fees due to lengthy processing times, possible delays in payment processing, clerical errors, and lack of notice to property owners in regards to payment not being processed for any reason. The timely response was we did a diligent search, and there were no documents responsive to these requests. I think we have to look at the fact that the requests are premised on erroneous assumptions that the city caused the delay or the error that led to the late fees. So what I am asking you to understand is that if there is a timely and valid payment, the tax collector does not charge a late fee. If the tax collector receives the timely payment and the city causes a delay in processing or there's a clerical error, there is no late fee charged to the taxpayer. Ms. Lau complains that she got a new bill and there was no reason for the new bill. For that reason, where other taxpayers are charged a late fee, we are not able to determine what was the basis for that late fee. But again, if we get the payment in our office on time, it's logged in and there's no late fee that is charged. That's why there's no documents responsive to her requests.
Okay.
And in this case, I think I should also mention that Ms. Lau's negligence is the cause the payment to be unsuccessful. And it was her bank that didn't notify the city for 4 business days. So when we got the notice, we processed it the day we got it, and it got sent to the department to rebuild the next business day, and that's when the notice was sent out. So even if there was this delay, it was only a 1 business day delay from the day we got it to the day it went out. But accounting has to process it, the cashiering department has to process it, then it goes to the real property section that sends out the rebill. And unfortunately, because the payment was made so late or close to the deadline, and that her bank took 4 days, it just pushes everything past the deadline. Thank you.
Okay. And before we begin, I just wanted to state that we're not here to make any kind of a determination on was the check late, this and that. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to determine if we have jurisdiction over this matter, as well as if there are any public records that should have been turned over. And that's what we'll be looking to see if we have the facts for that to make a recommendation to forward this to the full task force.
Can I ask, clarify with Ms. Lau what exactly it is that you're requesting?
So I want to know, I want all the phone logs and records of people who've complained the fact that they got charged with a late fee. She mentions she mentioned about the check issue. That was never told to me when I called the 311. They just said, you made a mistake. And I was like, okay, there was no reason why, what mistake I made, the processing error. She said I paid the check really late, but because by the time I looked online, there's no clear notice of the sign of that. It takes 10 days to process this check. I had to go into the FAQ section to find out that it was 10 days. And by that time, it's not on the bill either. When the bill's sent to your house, you can pay online, but there's no like, hey, please pay before 10 days because it would take 10 days to process an e-check. So if I didn't know that information until I just got there.
Again, I want to make it clear that we're not here to make a determination on if a check was late or anything like that.
Okay.
But we're here to find out if there were public records and if they should have been turned over.
Okay.
First, though, before we go any further, can we make a motion to find jurisdiction over this matter?
So,
Okay. Do you have any further questions, Member Hinsey?
so essentially,
Can we take action on jurisdiction?
Oh, sure. Do we have any public comment on jurisdiction? Seeing none.
Can we adopt the motion to find jurisdiction without objection?
Thank you.
essentially you're looking for a list of people that might be in the same
Yes.
situation that you were?
Yes, because I've mentioned it to several other property tax owners who only speak in Chinese, and they said they've had issues with this in the past, but they don't speak English, and their English is not good enough, so that they don't know, they just pay it because they have no other way to do it. They're like, who do I talk to? There's no one I can speak to, so
Okay.
I'm speaking for them.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for Ms. Liu.
Yes.
Ms. Lau has given us a couple of different instances in which when she contacted your agency, your department, to complain about her check being received late or her payment not going through and being assessed a late fee. Why weren't those documents turned over to Mrs. Lau or Ms. Lau upon her request?
Those documents are not public documents. They're private documents.
Emails are public documents.
I don't know what email. The emails that I am aware of are the documents that she would have already been a part of.
But were
With
those turned
Stephanie
over?
Prophet, if there's anything else,
I know, were those turned over to her in response to her Sunshine Ordinance request?
I think the emails came out afterward, after the Sunshine request, and it was discussions pertaining to that. So I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
Ms. Prophet no longer works for the city.
But her email should be retained.
Yes.
But was her email retained? It should have been. The email of all of your employees should be retained. So did you search her email for this information?
Do you know, Alex?
Yes, we did.
Can you-
Please approach the microphone
approach the
and,
mic?
as well as introduce yourself.
Alexander Del Valle, legal assistant in the Treasurer Tax Collector Department. And I believe the emails that Ms. Lau was mentioning was, as Ms. Lewitt said, created as part of subsequent to the request that we were then processing and responding to, and that's why I believe
From Ms. Lau.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Lau, can I ask you a few questions? Just making reference to the documents in the file as well as your statement earlier, it said that you had made these two different payments. We're not going to look into whether they were late or not late. And that your mother received late fee notices, correct?
Yes.
And then did you contact the Treasurer and Tax Collector's Office to ask them why these were late, or why you received a receipt and still received a late fee notice?
Yes, I did. I called 311 several times. I've talked to the Taxpayer Assistance Office in this regard.
How did you speak to them?
The first couple times was by phone.
Okay.
Via 311, and then after that, because I had problems with 311 and their customer service, I emailed. I even sent emails to the Treasurer Office themselves, and I got several different emails from the assistants of the Treasurer.
Yeah, and those were in the file, right?
Yes, they're on this file.
And then after that, and then can you give me around the date of those emails?
Okay, so the first one I sent off. Sorry, I have them all here.
It's okay.
I first wrote to the Treasurer Office on January 9th.
Okay. And when did you file your Sunshine Ordinance request?
For this official one, I sent in. Where is this? I believe I signed an official one in February.
Okay, so presumably you would have at least received the emails that you had sent as part of the response.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Do you have any questions? Okay. So I think that we have all of the facts here. I'm not making a determination of a violation or not. Obviously, that is what you will have the benefit of the full task force to explain your case. But I think that in reference to a violation of 67.21, there isn't any further information that we need. I would like to hear a 1-minute statement from each of the parties so they can sum up, and then we can make a motion at that time.
Can I make a clarification as to what Ms. Lau said?
Sure, you can make
You can have your statement.
There's something that I'd like to make a suggested question, if you don't
Sure.
mind. Was there a search for emails from any parties conducted for correspondence related to late fees? I haven't heard that being responded to at this time.
I asked if they searched the person's email that they say no longer works there, and they said that a search was conducted.
Yes. But it wouldn't just be for this one person, it would be for the controller's.
You're right, it would be for the entire office.
Yes.
So, the email PRA request came on January 9th, 2017. That's when it came to our attention. Then the tax collector attorney then opened the matter in city law and sent out the request for information from other departments, and she would email the response of due diligence and no records found. Then there were subsequent emails, and those were, of course, the ones that went back and forth. The second PRA was encompassed in, or a clarification of, the first. So we're handling them as two separate requests, and two separate responses were given. But emails were, those particular emails.
Correct. But Mrs. Lau did Mrs. Lau ever receive copies of the emails that she had sent, making complaints and asking questions about why she was receiving a late fee?
Did she get a second copy of it? I mean, she was a participant too.
I know. But I just all you have to do is answer the question. As part of the response from your office?
No, because we said
not
there were no-
pursuant to her complaint
Right.
about the payment system, but pursuant to her request under the Sunshine Ordinance?
No, we said there were no documents responsive to her request as
Okay.
she had propounded.
Okay. So I'd like to have a minute for each person to make a statement. We can start with Ms. Liu, and then we can finish with the complainant, Ms. Lau.
If you'd like to make any closing statements,
Yes, hold on a second.
any final words regarding the matter?
She says hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, so you can take a moment to organize your documents. I can't see Ms. Liu from here, so I didn't know what she was saying. Victor, can you give Ms. Liu 1 minute?
There was no undue delay by the city and county of San Francisco, and the late fee, it doesn't matter, I know, for the reason, but it wasn't the fault of the city. We looked for documents responsive to the way the question or the request was propounded to us, and there was just no responsive documents. We went to several supervisors, and they did their due diligence, found nothing, and responded to us accordingly. We're not withholding documents, so, if a personal conversation could have taken care of this, we would invite that to have occurred. And we still keep that open as an invitation.
Victor, can we give 1 minute for Ms. Lau?
I just want to clarify that several conversations have occurred, and they were not on my side, or they weren't willing to hear my side. They were just basically blaming me. So I just would like these records just because I know several people who can't speak English and would like to have this matter resolved, and just to make it more transparent in the fact that if the tax property payers have to pay for, regardless of any fees, no matter how come the payments are late, that there should be a process that we can see how this check is being processed, where you guys are sending this. When I deposit a check or anything or transfer money from bank to bank, there is an attachment code, there's a number, there's a time stamp that shows me where my payment is at any time. So that would if we are responsible for paying for those late fees, why is that process not shown to us? So.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Or if you have any comments, if you want to discuss how you feel or what you're thinking before.
I'm leaning towards recommending a violation of 6721.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you're ready to make a motion.
I will make the motion to send this matter up to the full task force with the recommendation to find jurisdiction, as well as the fact that a violation of 67.21 has sunshine violation has occurred.
And I'll second that. If we can hear any public comment on that motion. Seeing none, can we just call the roll?
On the motion to refer the matter to the full task force with the recommendation to find jurisdiction and find a violation of 67.21. On that motion, Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Chair Tesfa.
Aye.
Tesfa, aye. Barnetsky, absent. The motion passes. It's my suggestion that we refer this matter to the task force's May 3rd meeting.
Sure.
Notice will be provided to all parties regarding the next meeting. Next on the agenda, item number 6, file number 17014. The matter has been withdrawn by the complainant regarding the matter.
Okay.
Next on agenda, item number 7, 17016, complaint filed by Jerry Dratler against Ben Rosenfield and the Office of Controller for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.21, by failing to respond to a request for public records in a timely and/or complete manner.
Are the petitioner and respondent present?
They are both present.
Okay, can we hear from the petitioner first? Victor, please give Mr. Dratler 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Dratler, and I sent a sunshine request to Mr. Rosenfield, the San Francisco City Services Auditor and Controller, requesting copies of 3 independent audits prepared by Cumming Construction Management and the Cumming Construction Management letters for the 3 bond expenditure audits. Cumming was paid $288,000 or $96,000 for each of the bond expenditure audits. I am a CPA, and I know that professional audit standards require that auditors work independently of their client, and their audit reports include an opinion regarding the scope of their work and their audit findings. The November 2016 Cumming presentation to the Citizens General Obligation Bond Oversight Committee established 3 facts. Cumming Construction Management performed the audit planning, audit fieldwork, prepared the audit reports for the 3 audits. The only mention of the CSA is on page 10 of the presentation, where the CSA's sole role was to issue memorandum. The 3rd audit of the San Francisco General Hospital was not completed at the time of the Cumming presentation to C. Golbach. Additional facts. C. Golbach is one of 3 San Francisco bond oversight committees, and the other 2 bond oversight committees make their bond expenditure audits available to the public. The 3 Cumming audit reports and management letters are Cumming's independent product. Professional standards require Cumming to issue their own management letter for items they observed in their audit fieldwork. The City Services Auditor's statement that the CSA issued the final report on its audit of expenditures of the 2008 San Francisco General Hospital Bond Program is incorrect. Cumming prepared and issued the audit reports. If the CSA did perform the audits, their work papers would be protected. Memorandum are not audits. They are like book reports of the audit, which itself is a standalone document. There are no CSA work papers because there was no CSA audit. I did not request the audit memos. I requested Cummings audit reports. The CSA did send me draft reports of the 2 audits. Why is the CSA unwilling to send me final copies of the audit reports? Because there are audit findings and recommendations the CSA does not want disclosed. I can provide examples. This is why the Sunshine Ordinance needs to be enforced. The citizens of San Francisco who voted for and approved, can I?
You can finish your statement.
Thank you. The specific bond issues should not be denied access to the bond expenditure reports that tell them if the bonds funds were properly spent.
Thank you. You may be seated. Can we
Thank
hear
you.
from the respondent?
Good evening. My name is Tanya Ladaju, Director of City Audits for the Controller's Office. So my question really quickly before we start is, actually, what am I responding to? Because based on, there's a lot that has been said, and you're only giving us 3 minutes. And I understand that we're responding to the fact that he did not receive proper documentation. That's what I'm...
Your statement should be focused on the 2 sections of the Sunshine Ordinance that this violation is brought under, which is 67.21 and 67.25, which are failure to respond to an immediate disclosure request for public records in a timely and/or complete manner. It sounds like an extensive issue, but if you could keep your response focused on those 2 portions of the ordinance, since that's where the violations would be found.
Okay, So I'd like to say that, first, thank you for this opportunity, and that the Controller's Office is extremely committed to always responding fully, accurately, and timely to the 385 Sunshine responses that we've received to date. And this particular request is no different. So with regards to the items before you this evening, I'm certain that the Office of the Controller has cooperatively and timely provided Mr. Dratler with complete and available reports and information as PDFs, as well as web links to the final published reports in response to his September and October 2016 request to receive the audit reports for the 2010 ESER. We gave it, which we issued on 7/12/16. We gave him those requests on 9/29 and 10/17 for the 2011 RRSS. We issued on 7/25/16. We gave those reports 9/29/16 and 10/17. However, the result of the 2008 San Francisco General Hospital earthquake safety expenditure audit was issued on 3/16/17, which at that point in time was not issued upon his request. So to our knowledge, we have given him all documents, even that were developed by Cummings. Cummings is not independent of the City Services Auditor. Cummings is actually brought on under a contract as an arm to me as an auditor. Our auditing standards give us the authority and the right to hire individuals with expertise. Within the body of our contract, we fully state that CSA will review all work papers. Those products belong to CSA. We are responsible to ensure that they meet the standards of audit for auditing standards. We also have a clause in there that we attend all meetings. We also have a clause that our staff will work with our contractor. So as it relates to if that is the work of the CSA, that work belongs to the City and County of San Francisco under our preview. And in our Appendix F charter, it also gives us the right and the authority. And the only time that working papers are not available to the public are when they are in draft. We have no draft documents. I can show you by exhibits that we have given Mr. Dratler everything that he has asked us for. And we have I have personally worked extensively with Mr. Dratler. I always thought we worked successfully, and I'm really unsure about what the issues are. We have nothing to hide. It's not in our best interest to hide anything. As an auditor, I believe in independence, and when I hire contractors, I ensure independence.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to find jurisdiction?
So moved.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, we can adopt that without contest. I do have a couple of questions for Mr. Dratler. Before we begin, though, I would like to state that we are not here to determine the independence of the audit or any way that the audit was conducted. We're here to determine if we have enough facts for the full task force to hear this complaint under Section 67.21 of the Sunshine Ordinance. Mr. Dratler, so your last name is Ledeshi? Ledeshi. Ms. Ledeshi gave us, so we've discussed that there are 3 final audits that you would be looking for. Is the audit that was released on March 16th, 2017 the 3rd?
That's one of them, but...
Is that the 3rd one?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so that audit was not available, the final form of that was not available at the time of your request?
That's correct.
Okay. Has that audit since been transmitted to you, the final version?
A memorandum, which is a memo, which is a summary, was posted, as misled as you said, on the website.
That was my question. Did you receive the audit?
It's not an audit. It's a memo about an audit. That's a really important distinction.
But you are requesting the audit.
Yeah, I'm actually requesting the audit documents, the work prepared by Cumming. I'm not requesting an audit summary or a memorandum.
So what I was asking was the document that was published on 3/16/2017. Did you receive the audit? You're saying no.
No, I did not, because it's not an audit.
Well,
Did you receive the document?
I received the document, yes.
the memo, but you
The
didn't
memo.
receive the audit.
That's correct.
Okay, that was my question.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
Okay. Did you receive the 2 earlier audits?
I received
Did you receive the memos or did you receive the audits?
I received draft copies of the audits.
But you want the final version.
Right, because there are some significant audit findings.
That's fine. But you have not received it. I'm just trying to figure out what you, because some time has passed since the time when your request was placed, and today I'm just trying to find out if you've received anything since that date.
No, I haven't received the final audit reports.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Member Hinsey, do you have any questions for Mr. Dratler at this time? We can bring him back up as well.
Okay.
Ms. Ladeshi, I have a couple of questions for you. You said that the memo was posted for the 3/16/2017 audit, correct?
Correct.
Now that audit has been completed, why has and I know that was just last week or the week before that, why has that audit and work papers not been transmitted to Mr. Dratler per his Sunshine Ordinance request?
I really believe we're having an issue with terminology. Simple. Exhibit 1, if you go to our website, this is the audit report. There is nothing else to give. This is the full audit.
Is that the full audit?
Yes, it is the full audit.
Does it include the work papers?
No, if he wants the work papers, this is our full audit. He can request those. Here is the prior 2 audits and what we have given him. So we have a memorandum which is appropriate in the audit world. And yes, I realize he's a CPA. I am not doing a financial audit. I'm doing a compliance audit. There is a memorandum because of the memorandum is for out-of-scope work regarding benchmarking, so forth and on, that we extracted because it's not in scope. And we had our contractor and myself sit down and talk with the department regarding it. And when we initially gave it to him in November, it did not have the response of the department. We also issued this publicly on our website with the response of the department.
Did it include the work papers for the audit?
No, we never post work papers. Those are underlying documents. Okay, and so then...
Were those work papers sent per the Sunshine Ordinance request?
Yes, we have sent him 3 documents, and we have given him the work paper from Cummings. We've given him everything. And so here are all of our documents as exhibits that we are not holding any documentation from him. And go ahead.
Were the work papers from the 3/16/2017 memo that were posted transmitted to Mr. Dratler?
No, he has not requested those because at the time it was not done at all. And we stated within the body of our response at that time that audit is still underway. But everything else that we have in our files have been transmitted. We own all of that documentation. They are just an arm to me, and we own all of it. Our contract clearly spells out our relationship with this contractor.
Is there an issue of ownership here?
I have no issue of ownership.
Okay, and Mr. Dratler, you don't have any issues, just because that's been mentioned that they're an arm, and I think that's great. I mean, that's important information for our determination of jurisdiction.
So may I say this, not to cut you off? So the reason that I make that statement is because he speaks of the independence of audit work and the independence of Cummings, and not realizing that Cummings' independence is tied to my independence.
That's fine. We're not making a determination on the independence of the audit, which is something I stated earlier.
Yes.
We are just trying to find out what public records exist, as well as get the facts together for a potential finding under 67.21.
Understood.
So I'll state that again. That's not something that you need to reiterate. We're not going to make a determination on that
Okay.
either way. Mr. Dratler, can you forward?
Can I make some clarifying comments?
Sure.
Thank you. So one of the areas of confusion here is the potential misuse of the word work papers. So when an auditor does an audit,
You don't need to explain that to me. I work with financial and
Sure.
compliance audits,
Sure.
and I'm an attorney. So,
Okay.
but if you would like to clarify what you have received versus what
Right.
Ms. Ladeshi has said that
Right.
you have been sent, that's fine.
so I received 2 audits, the first 2 audits.
And did they include the work papers that were requested?
No, and I didn't request the work papers
Okay.
because I know they're protected, specifically in Appendix F of the city charter. So I didn't request them, but they did give me draft copies of the first 2 audits, not the audit work papers. So the question is, if they gave me draft copies of the first 2 audits, why are they unwilling to give me final copies of the 2 audits? So then it
Ms.
gets...
Ladeshi has said that she has no problem with giving you the final copy. So
Okay, that's...
maybe if you could point to a portion of, please point to a portion of the packet in which you were denied the final version of those, so that we can include that in the line of facts for the full task force.
Well, so I guess to make this clearer, the question would be, are the final audits for the first 2 audits on the website? Because every time I've asked for them, I've been directed to the City Services Auditor's website.
And you have not found them there.
I have not found them there. But let me make one other point. So in one of the audits, there's a preliminary finding that $12 million in expenditures for the bond, it's unclear whether they're consistent with the bond offering document. There's another for $166,000. There's another for $49,000.
And what is the point of these facts? Only because we are not going to be... Are you trying to say that the documents that you were given were not the correct documents? But, I mean, we're not going to make a finding on the consistency or the contents of those documents.
No, I understand, and that's a very good question. So the reason I'm telling you that is I can't verify that these are final findings until I see the final audit document. And that's why they're unwilling to release them.
Okay. Ms. Ladeshi, can I ask you a question? Mr. Dratler said that he was referred to the website in order to get the final version of these documents that he has in draft version. Can you show me where in the packet where you pointed him to the website where they should be available?
Is it in color? That one?
Because I mean, what I thought I saw, and I can, and you can make take a look, is on page 235 of the packet, where it says on March 16th, 2017, for example, CSA issued the final report on its audit of the expenditures, and then said that the report is available. But I'm asking for the actual audit, not the report on the audit.
No, that's the actual, anything that we post on our website is our final document.
That's the actual audit.
That is the actual audit. That document has been reviewed. It has gone through our as an attorney, you have things that go. You have a quality assurance process. We too have a quality assurance process. It has gone through its entire quality assurance process. It has the response from our client on there, and then we post.
Okay, so because I think of as an audit report as being separate from the full documentation of the audit. So is the full documentation of the audit minus the work papers posted online?
When you say the full documentation of the audit,
Yes, because here is the audit report.
the audit report is the full documentation of the audit.
Okay.
The audit work papers that you speak to are the underlying source to create that full report
Okay.
of all the work to make it, to bring it into context so that a reader can understand.
And so, Mr. Dratler, how is this document that's posted on the website, I have the link here, different from the document you're looking for?
Thank you. Do you have these schedules that I sent?
You need to point to a page in the packet for me. So
I don't.
a copy of the packet is on the desk, but that is what we have to use as
Right.
the record for this hearing.
Right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
237.
Okay.
So if you,
If you don't mind speaking to the mic.
I will, thank you. If you go to page 246,
246 or 237?
it starts on 237, 240, thank you, Tanya. It starts on 237.
Okay.
Page 246 is the relevant page because that is the only page in the presentation presented to C. Gobach where there's any mention of any CSA work. And you can see Cumming is doing the work papers and they're doing the final report. The only activity for the CSA is to issue the memorandums. And if you flip forward to page 243, Cumming is doing all the audit planning and survey. On page 244, they're doing all the field work. On page 245, they're drafting the reports. On page 246, which we just discussed, they're drafting the final report. With regard to independence, independence in accounting is just very similar, I would guess, to independence in the practice of law. Your work is independent of the client.
Yeah, I work with auditors
Yeah.
every day. But the issue of independence is not one that we're trying
No,
to
I know.
determine here. But what Ms. Ladeshi, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Ladeshi is saying is that Cumming was hired by her and she is supervising their work hand in hand every day. But it sounds like because of your understanding of how an audit works, you think that they have been contracted to separately do the work and report back to Ms. Ladeshi on occasion of these different tasks.
Well, actually,
So it sounds like there's just two different understandings of what the relationship is here.
well, professional standards, if you do work with somebody or you rely on another party's work, professional standards require you to disclose that. So let's say you were doing something highly technical like, a geology audit, and you had to rely on a geologist because you're an accountant, not a geologist. Then you would have to indicate on the report the scope of your work and the scope of the geologist's work, because what you're doing is you're issuing an opinion in reliance on somebody's work. But nowhere in the two audit draft reports do I have, and is there any indication that they relied on any work? But typically, as you probably know, when an accounting firm is retained, somebody manages the relationship, and it's mostly organizational, resources, direction.
But it does not appear that that is the case here.
I believe that would be a violation of professional standards.
It depends on the scope of the contract, and that's not something that we're here to determine. So it sounds like you think that there are additional materials to be had.
Well, I know there are additional materials because I have 2 draft audit reports, and the finals are not on the website. So I think that's pretty much a certainty. I could show them to you if you'd like.
Are those in the packet?
No, they're not, but they're,
Okay.
I mean,
What we're
these
gonna-
reports are over 150 pages.
I know, but it seems like there's an issue of comparing a draft to what Ms. Ludeshi says is the final. And
Right.
you should be able to have, I mean, changes occur, of course, between a draft and a final, but you should be able to compare the two and see how one document was at one point connected to the other.
That's correct.
And I can't do that without having the drafts that you have in the packet.
Would it be better than if I refiled?
Member Hinsey?
This, I guess, is more a question. This, I guess, is more a question for Victor. Is, I guess, in order to get, in order to get these pieces of evidence in the packet, would it be better if he refiled, or can we just continue the matter?
It's at the discretion of the parties and the task force if you want to review the matters today or continue to another meeting. However, I believe the issue is just my simple understanding of it is the respondent has stated that the final version is online and available, and the complainant is stating that it is not. It is still a draft version and it is not the final.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying that he received a draft. There's a final version on the website, but the final version, you can't even tell that it's connected to the draft. It's something different.
It's a memo.
It's a different type of document.
Yes.
I don't have this draft that he's holding in the binder.
Right.
I can't compare it to what's in the packet,
Right, I
which is what
understand.
has been determined as the final because I'd never seen it before. I think what I would like to do is to somehow get these documents that he has into the packet and do a continuation of this to another meeting after we've had time to review it and do a comparison to see. I mean, if they're two completely different types of documents, then I would understand that one might not be the draft of the final.
Thank you very much. So would you like me just to give them to you now or send them to you electronically?
You can send them to me electronically.
I'll gladly do that.
Okay, because that'll be it'll be critical because it's almost like we're talking about apples and oranges here right at this time.
Yes, I understand that.
Victor will insert those into the packet for our review,
Okay,
and then I guess
continue this to the next committee.
continue this to the next meeting, and then at the next meeting, we'll focus on whether or not there are differences between the two documents.
Exactly.
So, just a note to the parties, to particularly the complainant, that we're going to focus on that at the next meeting.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Just just give me 1 moment. I'll wait for it to return. But the next meeting of this committee will be on April the 25th. April the 25th, which is the fourth Tuesday of next month. If you like, but
Do make a motion to continue this matter to the next meeting of the complaint committee?
Do we have any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, if we could take it without contest.
the matter will be continued to the next meeting of the complaint committee. Next on the agenda is item number 8. Announcements, comments, questions, future agenda items, and pending calendar. There are no.
I don't have any. Do you have any,
I've got
Victor?
nothing, Victor.
There are no other items on the agenda.
I was wondering if maybe you have an idea of like how many complaints are in the pipeline or
We've had
anything,
a slight
you want-
surge.
Oh, it's not.
However, it's a person.
Okay. And then those will be scheduled as appropriate?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will, anything that overflows, I will be sending to the other committees.
Okay.
All right.
Hopefully we don't have overflows, but because it seems like since we have extra time.
I can talk to you about it.
Okay. Do you have any announcements? No. Okay. Thank you.
Would you like to adjourn the meeting at this time?
Yes. The complaint committee for March 20th. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.